Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Today I am here with my dear friend Zigola, and we met in Damanhur community, and we also collaborated on hosting a communication with the plant world course in Los Angeles some years ago. And now that I'm back here in Damanhur, I invited her to be on the podcast so she can share a bit about her experience with the plant world and collaborating with them because she hosts concerts with them. We're going to talk a bit about plant consciousness today, and in the bonus section, we're going to be sharing some tips on how to connect with and create a relationship with the plants around you and some of the benefits of that. So welcome, Zigola.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I'd love for you to introduce yourself a bit more to everyone, just sharing a bit about your background as it relates to plant life, even community life, whatever you feel called to share.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I'm grateful to be here. I am the Dutch from origin. I come from the Netherlands. I arrived here in Italy 12 years ago. And when I arrived here in the Netherlands, I was working as an artist, as a singer, and I make musical theater shows for children. And when I came here, I just felt this really strong connection to the people around me to work also for a shared ideal. And there's so much knowledge here and so much consciousness in their daily life. And I felt that I would like to integrate this knowledge to share a richer and more leveled message through my art in collaboration with the others here in the community of Damanhur. And I was actually from the beginning pretty much interested in the music of the plants. Well, at the first, not exactly. I'll just tell you a little bit the music of the plants for who doesn't know what it is. It's a technology that's invented in the community of Damanhur in the late 70s. We started researching with technology to have a dialogue with nature. And this started from the knowing that the trees and the plants are kin and our teachers. And there was not so much knowledge. There was no knowledge, at least in the mainstream, about plant intelligence at that moment. And they started making technology for people to experience that plants were actually responsive in certain dialogues, and they could manipulate certain devices that were developed at that time. And when I came here, I was a little skeptical about those devices, also because I also have like a scientific background, and I thought, well, you can measure so many things, and it can make a sound, because this technology of the music of the plants is basically measuring the electric currents in a plant and the electric resistance and the changes in electrical resistance inside the plant body. And these changes make musical notes. And it's a technology which is also similar to what is used in agriculture to measure the stress or the well-being of plants. But then the melodies are like an intuitive language that you could relate to. I was a little bit skeptical until a friend, a musician, said, "Zigola, you have to sing with this plant, and it's amazing." And I don't use any words. And then I started singing with the plant, and then I felt as if singing with a human musician, and I felt so in in connection, that I felt, when I thought of going with my voice going up, then the plant went up with the melody, or speeding or slowing down. And it's even hard to explain in words, but it was just something that clicked inside of me, and knowing of that the plant was perceiving me. And from that moment on, I just like, everything around me perceives me and is awake. And it's a deep knowing that all of us have, but that was totally dormant for me, actually. Well, pretty much dormant for me until that moment. So that was how I came here.
Beautiful. You're doing
Is it good? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so, Zigola is touching upon a really important topic that most people in the world are not living by, which is the fact that there is a consciousness in the plant kingdom, just like in humans. And they also, and there has been so much research in Damanhur and in other places too, that show that humans feel, just like humans feel, so do plants. And plants can even feel pain. Like if you're going to go and cut the plant, and they can even perceive emotions in humans and do certain behaviors or actions. And they're also social beings, just like humans are. And I know there was that study when they just watered one plant, that one plant would then help to give water to the other plants too. And I think one of my favorite studies about plant consciousness was that, they were able to set up a plant connected to being able to open a gate or not. And if the person approached the gate with anger, like it wanted to harm the plant or whatever, they wouldn't open the gate. But if you did open, if you came with like kind, like I'm going to water it or I'm going to, do something nice, then they were opening the gate for the humans to enter in. And what this shows, you might think like, how is that possible? So I do think for some people who are skeptical, it's important to explain the technology. And essentially, it is the technology of the lie detector test. So the music of the plants device and any of the research they did so that the plants could move objects was just by being able to measure the capillary resistance change in plants, because that's something they're able to control, which means like how they're able to absorb water from the roots, from the soil. And yeah, maybe there's something, Ezekiel, on the science of it that you want to elaborate on a bit more, if you feel like that's enough, or just sharing a bit more about some of the research of plant consciousness, which is also something to consider if you are someone who's vegan or has chosen to be vegan and you think like, well, because it's not fair to harm the animals. Well, I would beg to say, well, what about the plants? Right? And so there's this idea that really, if we want to be most harmonious and not harm anything, then we must only eat the fruit that is given from the tree and falls down. That would be the only way. But of course, if we're always having good intentions and we're really thoughtful and we feel connected in gratitude for the circle of life, then that's a different experience as well. But it's not that we place that animal kingdom above the plant kingdom. Really, plants equally have a consciousness. It's just different from human or animal consciousness.
Yeah, thanks. I think that you touch upon different things that I felt like connecting to. One of the things that you mentioned about the lie detector, which is also based on the resistance that you have in your body that changes when your emotion changes. So when you, based on the assumption that if you tell a lie, then your heartbeat goes up, and the heat in your body changes, and you sweat a little bit, and that has influence on how easily your body conducts electricity. And the science at this moment, as far as I know, there are no studies that mention like a sort of emotional states of plants, although of course you can also have maybe other indicators that could like refer, but this sounds a little bit more. Emotions is something that I think in science is attributed to people and not to other living beings. But I think it's very interesting because my experience, and also I know the experience of the people that work with the music of the plants, is exactly that. That the music of the plants responds a lot to emotion and the state in which people are. Because I do activities also at this moment with children, because I have this passion also to work with children. So I make also music theater for children with music of the plants, but I also do activities in schools about with the music of the plants and about plant consciousness, and really basically about being friends with plants. Friends with plants is the name, is the theme, and as well as the concerts for adults also. But what I see in children, because their emotional state varies a lot, goes from anger to super joy, and there you see immediately a response of the music of the plants. When children are fighting and no, let me do it, and then the plants stop playing, and as soon as they are in a good mood, then the plant starts again. And so I've had some really super funny situations in that. Like I came here in Damanhur, and I started teaching also uh, English and music at school. And then when I was teaching English, and the children were like a little bit complaining, oh, I don't want to do these exercises, and blah, blah. And then I had switched on the plant device, and I didn't know it at that time yet, how it worked. And I thought, oh, maybe it's wrong, it's not working, whatever. And I didn't even know what was on and what was off. And then some hours later, I was teaching music, and we were having a choir, and all the children were singing together. And then I heard like, ding, ding, ding. Did somebody bring an instrument, or what's happening? So I asked everybody to be silent for a moment. And then I heard that the plant had started singing. And this is actually also like many years later, and through the years, I've been doing many things with children and music of the plants. And this always happens when the plant doesn't sing. And then I say, hey, let's sing together. And because singing is magical also, because our voice is so much more than only the words that we use to communicate, as we know. And it's also really an instrument to put ourselves in frequency with the others and to heal the others also, because the frequencies that are like harmonic in our body are vibrating, making another body vibrate, and vice versa. So it's really like there's so much joy and release when you sing together, and the plants immediately respond to that.
Yeah, beautiful. And so for those of you that don't know, there is a device that was created. And when she's talking about the music of the plants, essentially it is like kind of like an iPad, an iPhone size. And it has two different clips, I can say. And so one you would put closer to the roots, and the other you would put like on the leaf of the plant. And the idea is over these two clips is where that resistance is measured. So remember, we talked about the technology is by measuring the change in the capillaries in terms of the resistance or the tension. And then that's how the plant makes a sound. It's through the device. So like a MIDI device, which is a sound producing technology, which is what like DJs use to create sound, for example. And what's interesting is when a plant is like a virgin to this kind of technology, it kind of experiments and it plays things all over the place. But over time, because the plant can hear in some way, it's hearing what it's doing, it actually learns how to play better music, and it learns how to sing. What Zigola is alluding to is that the plants are responding to the environment around us, which is why you might find like if a place has good energy, a plant will really thrive. But some plants can even bring with them the capacity to like clean air or bring a certain frequency into a space. So we actually are living a symbiotic relationship with plants where the environment we create affects them and the environment they create can affect us. And we know that like when we see a flower, we like soften or like, wow, maybe we want to smell it. Maybe there is an aroma that's coming from the plant. So this is I felt like this is an important topic to bring to the podcast because this podcast is about spirituality. It's about personal development. It's about living our fullest potential and living our heaven on earth. And one way in which we do that is to enter into connection and harmony with all that is around us. And so I hope that just from listening to the podcast episode today, that you start to develop a different relationship with the plants that you have. And if you don't have them, maybe you're inspired to actually go and get a plant for your home. But if not around you, but more and more we're seeing that some places of work or restaurants, I even see like they're buying fake plants. And so it's like, please don't buy fake plants. Like it does require some upkeep to have plants, but think of it as like this beautiful energy that's being given to the space. And then that also is going to uplift the space around it. There's an exchange that happens. And I feel like in the fall of Atlantis, way back when humanity had a time where it fell, so a civilization destroyed themselves, they also kind of forgot about nature a bit. And we see that happening in major cities sometimes, whereas instead of co-creating with the earth and nature and the trees, there's like, oh, let's cut it down and let's build a whole new community or of houses or a street of houses versus like, let's create with the earth that's already here. And so I just want to provoke that a bit. And I'm not sure, Ziegler, if there's anything that you want to share around this, as well as, or, continue on with your plant concerts and such.
Well, there are many things that you're saying. I'm thinking, oh yeah, that, and oh yeah, that. So the thing that comes in mind when the end of your discourse about is also like we in well, I say like we maybe in more Western culture, which of course not everybody is from Western culture, but we tend to speak about nature as something which is outside from us. Like nature are the trees and the animals and forests and so on, whereas our body is of course nature. And I think the fact that we distance from nature, from the forest and from the trees, and we go and live in the city, it's also we also sometimes lose contact with our own body. And also when we walk in nature, we realize also how much it gives you energy. Also, like we love to go for a long walk in nature. And one time which I found striking in connection with trees, because after my experience with the music of the plants, I started totally passionate about the trees, and I started studying the knowledge here of Damanhur on tree communication, plant communication, and I also started studying other techniques. I had no idea that there were so many techniques in the world about plant communication, and I had also the pleasure and the fortunate position of the occasions to study with great people who are more from shamanic tradition. We have wise people from different cultures and tribes, and he come visiting in Damanhur, who have taught me things. And I also had the honor to study with Pamela Montgomery, who I admire very much, the knowledge that she has on plant communication. So and one time in when I had this experience of having a conversation with the plant, with the tree, which I maybe in the extra time I can give some practical tips about how to go about that. But like I connected the music of the plants to big old trees. And what the message that I got from them was that the music of the plants is has an effect on your brain, an immediate effect, which brings you in frequency with nature, as like similar to having walked in the forest for an hour. And the thing they said to me was like, it prolongs the space between one thought and the next, which leaves the space for a conversation with nature and for inspiration and for fresh ideas. And I think that was I thought very interesting and resonating also with what I've learned from also other. I'm also pretty a fan of mindfulness meditation or the Buddhistic meditation techniques to train the mind, which is I think the root of the word meditation, to also to be aware of what is your thought and what comes from outside, what is generated inside of you, and to also be aware of when thought comes and goes, and it is really this in the space between one thought and the next, where you can receive messages also from the trees. And then also your body is like the magical instrument, because it's what I started a little bit with, that we lost connection to our body, especially in a world where we are like our visual, for people who have a visual sense that is like very overstimulated. And then maybe also hearing, we have also quite some audio, but there are the other senses, like the sense of smell or the sense of taste. And in nature, all these senses are like vital importance to activate them all and to fill them all. And this is actually something that I have found, which is like a common denominator in all the techniques that I have found in the world. It starts with our own body.
I feel like you're alluding to, when you talk about the just listening to the plant world can be the same as walking in nature for a certain amount of time. And I do feel like that's one of the biggest things that creates disease and health problems in people, is we're not outside in the world enough. We're in our homes, we're in comfort, we're not walking through the forest for an hour a day. Most people are not. And some people even think that would be like a luxury. And maybe it is, depending on what your work life is. But that's why if you bring plants into your home and even have a device like the communication of the plant, but even have a device like the music of the plants, you allow yourself to enter into like that Schumann resonance. And that is the frequency of nature, is the Schumann resonance. And when we're in our fullest health, this is the frequency with we are most in harmony within our bodies as well. And I find that we can communicate with the plant world, like just by meditating under a tree. That's why I don't think it's a mistake or an accident that Buddha was found and seen meditating under a tree, because that frequency of nature is a more quiet, serene, harmonious frequency that we can more easily enter into a space of centeredness, groundedness, quietness. And what's so amazing is that we have this capacity in many different ways, and one being the music of the plants. So I actually have one as well, and we'll share a link as well if this is something that you're interested in getting for yourself. But we have so much available to us to support our awakening, our healing, our transformation. And one secret is not even a secret, but one key is within the plant kingdom, within nature, which is us as well. And so just like you have a pet that may be an animal, why not have plants in your home that also provide comfort and nourishment in their way? Right?
Yeah. I also want to add to that, because it's interesting to you can always see things from different perspectives, like what you said, that nature gives you calm, and also you were referring to Buddha. I think also in my experience, when I have the experience of being in contact with the consciousness or the soul or of the plant, the wisdom of the plant, is that it changes my logic. And I think that's why a plant or a tree, especially a tree, but like it's a great tutor, it's a great teacher. So if you're in any way thinking about, if you have a quest about anything, It's actually Vision Quest in the word. It's a very well known method that different shamanic traditions use to be in nature for some time in silence. And often, there's different, but you don't bring anything, you don't eat, and you're having a plant diet, and you're just staying in this circle and just reading what's happening there, and you get totally in tune with nature, and then all of nature around you starts communicating with you, and everything which enters in your circle has a meaning, and it's responding to your question of what am I doing on this planet, or maybe another quest that you have. And this is also, I think they're very powerful for having a plant friend, because this is also what Nikki said about having a plant in your home. It's also like when she said, like, okay, and you can have a pet, and why not a plant? And this is something that I love the most from when I work with children. Then that is what always happens, that children are recognizing the plant as a friend, and they recognize that sharing what they feel with the plant is actually also giving them answers and making them change perspective. And it's so beautiful because children they're quick to pick up things that we are also super capable of picking up, but maybe sometimes we need a little bit more time. So they are like, pop, pop, pop. And then they say, like, oh yeah, when I'm with that tree, it makes me change my mind in that way. But then when I'm with that tree, it just like has other things to say. So yeah, I think that's really something really precious to recognize.
Yeah, and you're alluding to another beautiful subject that you mentioned in the shamanic world. So I've done dietas with plants, and most recently I started working with flowers, and not only through like the Bach flower essence, but actually doing a full dieta with consuming a certain type of flower. Like I've done it with rose and with bovenzana, and I've been wanting to do with blue lotus. I have all the teas and the tinctures and such, because we receive wisdom and ways of being, because each plant has different properties and can bring out different things in us. And we don't only have to ingest them, we can have mediumship. And that's what is shared in the communication with the plant world course, is just like you would, if you are someone who meditates and channels and receives energetic wisdom and guidance from the divine or divine energies or God or spirit energies, you can do the same with the spirit and the plants. And so whether you take time to meditate or ingest them, smell them, have them in your home, or just go into a forest and decide to meditate with a tree, you can receive beautiful wisdom and guidance, just like you would from a spirit guide or from any kind of divination system or anything that you are wanting to receive more insight around, just like as if you would talk to a friend. And so that's one thing that we can invite you to do, like go in the forest, go out in nature, and see if you can enter into a dialogue with a tree or plants and see what happens. And in the bonus section, we're going to go into how to create a relationship with the plants you may have in your home, or if now you're inspired to get some plants in your home. Is there anything else, Zigola, you want to share before we go into the bonus section?
Well, I would like to share a little bit about my experience in co-creation in a creative sense, because as I have mentioned before, my main occupation is that of being an artist, and I started, thanks to studying the connection and the communication with the plant world, I started like intertwining those worlds. And it's really magical to do performances with plants. So then I use the music of plant technology, and sometimes I collaborate with other musicians, like a guitar player, a saxophone player, or a piano player. And sometimes I do it more just only voice, and I have some other instruments that I play, flute. But the beauty is that before I do a concert, I connect to the territory, and I ask guidance to bring these sounds to the audience, and it's just so beautiful how what energies come through and the spirits that come through, which sometimes is like the last time I did a concert. The evening before, I was thinking about the territory, which was beautiful castle gardens. I was thinking about the territory, like what does the territory like to collaborate with me in for the concert the next day. And I saw this gigantic tree being coming closer and explaining that I, through my voice, or it was a channel, and that they would channel their energy through to people, and so there was a big tree presence there. In other locations where I was close to the sea, there were also the spirits of the sea coming through, because they're more connected to the plant world also than as usually there. So it's also very much a spiritual, like not only the spirit of plants, but also all the beings that live in harmony with the plants. They come through, and then the audience experiences the music and the musicality of the people that are musicians, and human musicians that are playing. But there's also like something like this channel energy with all the musicians, because the musicians also like decide to open themselves up, and we do meditation with nature before, and we set an intention. Like, for instance, we do one piece in which our intention is to connect to the water, and then connect to the earth and to the elements, which are really the building blocks our existence, of our planet, of our own body, and to also connect to the water outside of us, and to channel that in our music, that it can also move the water inside of us, or the elements inside of us. And those are always magical experiences. And I think it's very interesting also to co-create with plants. So now I am giving this example as a musician, as a singer, to co-create with plants, and but we can do it when we build a house, or when we are when we're inventing new things in all the professions that we have. I mean, that would be like a dream world, according to me, in which before creating anything, a product, to also to connect to the trees and to the earth and to the elements, to get inspiration and different ideas on how to create in harmony, to co-create, because it seems like a very soft way to help changing the world into a better place, or to have like a response to maybe pollution, or all the bad things that we know about the climate and so on. But actually, I think it's the foundation. Like, if we really change that in ourselves, to co-create with what's around us, then everything we are creating is like regenerating our environment. So
yeah, and I also feel like it helps create more harmony, and you're making me remember how in the communication of the plant world course, that we can ask the mother tree of a land, if we say you want to build a house or renovate a house that's there, or change some things, that you can ask the plant world through the mother tree, which is kind of like the representative of all the plants on the land, like what would be most serving. Or and I remember when we were channeling through and communicating to understand the history of the land and what may have happened on the land before. Because if you're a light worker, then this helps with the grid work you might be doing, and to help to heal and restore order, and help to heal the karmas on certain lands, so that when people and humans and everyone come to live, that we're in better symbiosis and harmony with all that is around us. Because for centuries, like, so many different wars have happened on land, and the plants have been there the whole time, recording all of history and all of the moments. And so they carry so much. Like, the plants are here to support us, to support our thriving, just as we can do the same when we choose to water them and take care of them. So there really is this symbiotic relationship that we can begin to cultivate. And so we will see you inside the bonus content for more on that. And so, Zigola, where can people find you if they're interested in connecting with you, whether it's on social media, etc.?
Well, a good start is my site, voiceandplantmusic.com. And from there on, you can see the work that I do, and you can link through things and social.
Beautiful. So we'll include that link in the comment section, description of this episode. Thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you inside the bonus content. Thank you for being here, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work.